I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is our nerdiest thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to our nerdiest thing. Today, we are starting our discussion of Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver, book 3 of the Ruinous Love Trilogy. Today, we're going to be talking about the first 4-ish chapters, Ace of Cups, through Prairie Princess. And just a trigger warning, there are lots of triggers for the book in general, but in this episode in particular, we're going to be talking about domestic violence in a little bit more detail than the book goes into. So just be, aware of that and listen with care. And before we get into anything else, Deb, will you please share our nerdiest cocktail?
Of course. Tonight's cocktail is named Killer Colada. It's themed after taking matters into your own hands. And Mindy, that means something differently to me.
Yeah.
You mean like in a sexy way?
Like a masturbation type of
Oh, no,
way.
I was talking about she's killing somebody for somebody else.
Well, I know, but if I take matters into my own hands, it means I'm locking the door.
Your mind is in the gutter.
My mind's always in the gutter.
Mine did not go there, but it usually does. So I'm
Okay.
a little concerned about myself.
So this is themed after masturbation. No, I'm kidding. It's themed after taking matters into your own hands. This drink pairs well with overconfidence, aluminum baseball bats, ouch, and cocktail sticks, super ouch. And it may cause an unexpected trip to the hospital. That because we drink too much. No, I'm kidding. It's a pina colada and it's really fucking good. And Mindy gave us cocktail skewers and everything. We have chunks of pineapple and fresh banana and you did such a good job.
times.
Thank you.
It's very tropical and summery.
I was trying to use the, backpack ingredients.
I know. I told you guys before we started recording, it took me a whole day to figure that out. This is based on the actual book. I thought you were just being summary. Either way,
That
good
too.
job.
You're like, why'd you do a cocktail that has nothing to do with this?
I was like, that's so weird. I guess it's fine. No, then I figured it out. And then I felt stupid. But that's okay. Now it's time for our nerdy and dirty recap. Since we're talking about a book again, we're going to do the 30-second recap where the Wheel of Names speaks every week and gives one of us 30 seconds to say, well, what happened? What happened in that section of the book? Can you tell it's been a long time since we've done this?
Yeah.
The Wheel of Names has spoken. And Mindy, whose turn is it?
It said very sexually, Deb.
Oh,
Ooh,
it said...
I'm going to go take matters into my own.
So, Deb, you have 30 seconds on the clock. A ready, a set, and a go.
Rose is reading tarot cards and pinpoints her customer as a domestic abuse victim. The victim's husband walks in and marks himself as small dick energy asshole of the year. Rose has a kid pickpocket the guy's license and the $20 he took from her. Rose scopes out asshole guy's house and catches him mid-abuse. Asshole guy obliterates Rose's leg and she shoves cocktail skewers in his eyes. Rose escapes and breaks into Fion's clinic, who then calls an ambulance. Rose calls Fion Dr. McSpicy. Rose has to heal, but she goes where there's murder children. Fion asks Rose to come stay with him and they both agree not to serial kill each other in their sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You did it. Yeah.
I skipped a couple things when you started. But normally
highlights.
normally I just keep going.
Yeah, you just hold your finger up like, I'm not done yet.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
No, that was good. A lot happened because you're setting up the entire book.
Exactly.
That was a good recap. Well done.
Thank you.
Golf claps for Deborah. And that brings us to our nerdiest vocabulary, Mindy.
Yes.
Take it away.
Okay, I will. A few different kinds of things today. I'm going to start out with, because by request, we want to talk a little bit about the title of this book, right?
Yeah.
So,
because I don't know how to say it.
So I had always thought it was Scythe and Sparrow, and I'd heard some other different ways to pronounce it. So I wanted to look it up and make sure I was pronouncing it right, because I'm the word nerd. And I even went and I'd heard Scythe and Sparrow.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure it wasn't because sometimes I'll say it's not pronounced that way. And then I look it up and it's well, you can actually pronounce it both ways.
Right. Yeah.
And unfortunately this time you can't. It is Scythe.
Well, you can, but you're wrong.
Well, yeah, you can, but I will judge you. No, I'm just kidding.
But
I mean, I might.
I feel like the Grim Reaper carries a scythe. But he doesn't.
In your hurt, he can.
Yes.
When he kills me, he's going to be like, "You've been saying this wrong for years."
You get the Scythe.
It's payback time.
Double scythes for you.
Oh, that's so great.
So anyway, just, an FYI, but again, you pronounce it how you want to pronounce
We
it.
will
It
make
is
fun of
your
you.
reading voice in your head. And
Yeah, that's true.
I really don't care how you pronounce it in your head, but I'm going to say it the correct way because I'm a weirdo like
We
that.
won't make fun of you because I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Yeah, me too. That's all right. You live and you learn.
Yep. So moving on, we're going to talk about Rose and her name. And there's really no hidden meaning. It is a rose, but it does come from the Latin word rosa that means rose or flower.
Nice.
But I thought I would look into floriography a little bit, which I have done previously in other books that we've read. It is the language of flowers, and the rose is often associated with love, beauty, and romance. And this comes from mythology, and I did not know this, but Aphrodite, the goddess of love, gave roses to the world in honor of her son Eros, which is an anagram of rose.
Oh, interesting.
I know. I loved that little tidbit.
I've never heard that either.
Yeah, I know a little bit about Greek mythology, but I hadn't heard that whole Rose and Aphrodite
All my
connection.
Greek mythology comes from Katie Robert.
Mine comes from Scarlett St. Clair. So.
Right? Yeah.
Mine comes from when my kids used to talk about Rick Riordan books.
Yeah.
What was that one?
So
called?
we've all got it covered.
Percy
Jackson.
Jackson.
Yes, thank you. I could
Yeah.
not come up with his name.
Percy Jackson.
So yeah, so it's we got several areas of mythology covered there, but that was a new one for me.
Okay, do I dare say I think Percy Jackson's better than Harry Potter?
I've only read the first one, and I did really, really enjoy it.
I've never read
I thought it was
any
very
of them.
smart.
It's very smart. And not that Harry Potter isn't. Harry Potter is actually very, very smart. But I enjoy, there's more, instead of Voldemort waiting until the end of the year to try to kill Harry, the Percy Jackson just almost gets killed all the time.
They jump
Well,
right
There's
in.
more action.
Voldemort appreciates education.
The school system, the private school
Yeah,
system.
education is important. It's a priority.
Yeah, because Voldemort's not sending his kids to public school.
Oh, Lord, no.
Heavens, no.
His kids would go to was it Durmstrang or whatever that school. Anyway,
Yes.
Did you all see Victor Crumb's glow up on Instagram?
No.
I have
You need
not.
to look this
Did
up.
he Neville Longbottom?
He did. he long bottomed up into adulthood. He's got all these tattoos and shit.
All
I mean,
right.
he wasn't bad looking. He just looked kind of like a douche, to be
Yeah.
honest. But yeah, he's
a sexy douche now.
He long bottomed up.
Good for him.
Good for go, Victor Crumb.
Yeah.
You do you, boo. Anyway, so the last thing I want to talk about as far as vocabulary is concerned, it's not really vocabulary, but I am very interested in this whole tarot card thing, right? And I think one time I did a little mini lesson on tarot, but this I really wanted to dive into the Ace of Cups because this is the card that she uses to trigger these women to let her know that they need help.
Part 1 of the secret code.
Yes. And so I dug a little bit into the Ace of Cups and what it means. And it's generally the card for new beginnings. It's the first card in the Cups suit. So it represents a fresh start and a chance to have new experiences and emotions, which fits, right? So with regards to emotions and intuition, the Ace of Cups means you will feel things in a profound way.
I already feel things in a profound way.
Sexually?
Not always. Just everything.
Yes.
Does the Ace of
The
Cups
anxiety.
mean I'm going to take matters into my own?
It might. Relating to openness and vulnerability, this card encourages you to open your heart and be vulnerable, which I believe that definitely tracks with this whole theme. And then finally, the Ace of Cups also represents compassion, understanding, and empathy, not only for others, but for yourself, which really felt right on the nose to me, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really cool thing. And I didn't realize, when you're looking at Ace of Cups, it actually is like a suit. It's the ace. It's the first one. It's number one card.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm learning all kinds of new things about tarot.
Whitney, you said something really interesting that I hadn't thought about, because she does essentially say in her inner monologue that she has it creased a certain way, so it always comes up first. So I didn't think about that being her way of letting the woman know that that's who she is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't catch that. That's a great catch.
It took me a while. And then I was like,
After you figured out why we were having pina colada.
yeah, then I figured out
goes together.
Yeah. I learned a lot of things in this section. Well, that brings us to our favorite moment. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Whit.
Well, my favorite moment was just the whole opening scene. The opening line of, if you hit someone in the back of the head hard enough, you can pop their eyeballs right out of their head. I just thought that was a really strong start. And when I first read that line, starting this book, I felt like, all right, this is the vibe I'm looking for.
This is a Bryn Weaver book.
Yes, this is a Bryn Weaver book. Like, it's funny, and you're also starting like not really in the middle of the action the same way the first two books do, but in the middle of the action for what Rose is up to.
Yeah,
which is just a different type of action, and it's irreverent. It's funny. It does a good job setting the tone for the book and the story. But I do wish that it had opened in a little bit more of an unhinged way compared to Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark. Those were the two female characters like actively killing people or have just finished actively killing people.
You wanted it to be more unhinged.
Well, I was expecting the book to open up with like Rose attacking this Cranwell guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it didn't, and that's fine. I liked the opening line anyway.
I have a feeling that opening line's going to come into play later.
Yeah. 100%.
Seems like foreshadowing. What were your all's favorite moments?
My favorite moment is when Baz, the little teenager, says he wants to bring the vacation to his mom. I just thought that was super sweet.
That was sweet.
Even though he's doing it for a PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's still sweet and oddly resourceful.
It is. Yeah. I was like, I appreciate the hustle to like make this happen for yourself and for your mom.
Yes.
I thought that was sweet
right?
too.
I thought that was a sweet little moment.
I like that.
Well, I absolutely adore Rose when she's all hopped up on morphine in the ambulance. She can't keep her feelings about how hot Fionn is, aka Dr. McSpicy, Dr. Beast mode, and she's so sure he's a TV doctor that she asks for his credentials. And then she's like, why are you wearing activewear?
Yeah, like what's going on here? I liked that scene a lot too.
Yeah,
she's funny.
It showed their banter really early, which I enjoyed a lot.
And I appreciated that scene too, because Fionn is so very like, I don't even know what to do with you. Like his brothers, I feel like, are very good at giving it right back to their counterparts. And he's just kind of like, oh, well, goodness. He's got that kind of vibe to him. Yeah, like he doesn't really know.
He's like, what? He's all like flustered.
He is. Yeah, he gets very, very flustered. I appreciate that about him. So, well, that brings us to our least favorite moments or least favorite twists. And I can go ahead and share mine. It was right after my favorite moment, which was the opening scene. My least favorite moment was the Globe of Death. And really the fact that we didn't get any details about the Globe of Death at all in any way, shape, or form.
Have you ever seen that done?
Not in real life.
Oh,
no.
it's really
I've seen
cool
it like on shows.
Here's what
and stuff.
I picture. Wild hearts can't be broken.
I mean,
with the motorcycle.
With the motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, no, like the cage that the guy makes.
Oh.
With the motorcycle. Remember he fixes the motorcycle.
But there's like 3 of them in this in this act. But it really rubbed me the wrong way that we did not get any description of that at all, because they talk about it in the first 2 books and this book too. The fact that she does the Globe of Death is referenced all the time as a way to show who she is and like how crazy she is and how like fearless she is. And I'm like, you're going to make this really big deal about this. And then at the first opportunity be like, I did the Globe of Death and it went great.
Bye.
And that's all that is. I'm like, you gave me more detail about the teenager stealing the money back than I just, I thought that was a weird choice. Yeah.
I was a little frustrated by that too.
Yeah. Like that was weird. I didn't like that. I didn't like it, and I don't care to say it. So yeah, it fell a little flat for me. Yeah, but that was my least favorite moment. What about you guys?
Well, mine was when Cranwell, aka asshole guy, starts like obliterating Rose's legs.
Oh yeah,
and the wife is so scared of him that she doesn't even come out to help. And I assume it's because she knows how violent he is, and that he'll likely hurt her in his rage with Rose. Right. Yeah. But it really bothered me that she's so abused that she does. I mean, she has to be able to hear Rose screaming, right? And that she can't even come outside. Yeah. So that, I mean, I've been around domestic abuse victims. I understand why she didn't, and that it bothers me more.
There's some self-preservation happening there.
For sure. And I mean, fuck, Rose got hers. It was fine.
Well, that leads to my least favorite moment. The porcupining with the cocktail sticks in the eye. There's something about eyes, like
me too.
And I pictured it, and I like heard it in my no.
Whenever did you all ever see Kill Bill or Kill Bill 2?
No.
There's a part where Daryl Hannah's in it, and she's already missing an eye, and Uma Thurman pops her other eye out, and then steps on it. And Brian, the producer, sexual butler, he has a thing about eyes too, and we're in the theater and he's gagging out loud.
That would be me. I
don't know what it is about eyeballs.
Kill Bill
like
though
too.
was the way that they made it more suspenseful. It was very Hitchcockian, where there wasn't a lot of background music and stuff, and so you can hear it.
Yeah. That would make. And it's funny because when Sloane does it, when she gouges eyes, or plucks eyes out, that doesn't bother me. I guess because they're intact.
Well, and is the person dead? When
Not always,
Sometimes.
but mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking of the leather and mark scene where they do it to the corpse.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That does lead into my biggest revelation, and it is that you can pop someone's eye out if you hit them hard enough on the back of the head. I did do some quick research and found out that if someone did have their eye popped out of the socket, doctors would literally just push that sucker back in, assuming that there isn't more injury that needs to be taken care of. But can you imagine going in and being and they're like, hold on, we're going to give you some antiseptic, and they're just you just push that sucker back in there.
No, thank you. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'm going to change the subject. My biggest revelation is actually what you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Deb. Me figuring out that opening scene with the tarot cards is a 2-step secret code, right? Her presenting the Ace of Cups and asking that specific question is her side, Rosa's side of the secret code, and then the customer has their response. Yes. It's like asking for a password, basically. Right. I feel like I've seen stuff like that in spy movies where one person starts the phrase and the other person has to finish it to
or for secret underground parties
speakeasies kind of thing.
I want to go to a rave where I have to know a code word to get in.
Yeah,
I've been to a lot of speakeasies, and you usually just have to know where the door is.
Yeah, it did. That was my biggest revelation, but it also led to one of my questions where I'm like, how does this get around when she's not a person that stays in the same area, right? She's with this circus that travels all over the country. I'm just curious.
That's a good question.
How do these women hear about this other woman?
The dark interwebs.
Maybe, I don't know, a little bit. How do you hear about the Sparrow in general? And then how do you hear enough about the Sparrow to figure out what the secret code is?
I'm going to assume there's a Survivor Facebook group.
Maybe, yeah. But I think Rose doing that is kind of badass.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
That was my biggest revelation.
That kind of was my revelation a little bit too. Just that after reading the first 2 books and just wondering what Rose's story is going to be, that was not what I expected at all, that she was going to be this secret vigilante.
Yeah, me either.
And that she helps women wanting to get out of abusive situations. I didn't, my mind did not go there. I guess because I was on because she's not at this point a serial killer.
Sure.
Because she's just giving them the means, right? And so I thought it was going to be more hands-on, I guess.
Yeah.
But I actually really love this for Rose. I love this sort of backstage secret thing.
Yeah,
I like it.
in the shadows kind of thing, and not front and
so
center.
So it took me by surprise, but I like it so far.
Yeah. It is just the beginning, right? Well, normally we talk about our favorite spicy scene, but there isn't any spice yet. So we can just talk about what our favorite scene was. Well, mine was the scene where Fionn brings Rose her bike at the campground, and Rose is trying really hard to be a strong, independent woman, but she literally can't with her crutches. And with the moment where she accidentally knocks her crutches over and they both just watch them fall and just stare at them, that made me laugh really hard.
That would be me.
I did enjoy that quite a bit. And with Fionn's not a strong start. I found that very charming from him. And I also like the Children of the Corn reference and the creepy kids on the swings. I just thought that whole scene was very well done and funny, but still showing you girl, you need help. You cannot do, you physically cannot do this. You need
nice
help.
Try, but
and I like how it felt organic. The way she wrote that scene, it felt organic for Fionn to be come to my house and please let me help you, and not just a convenient, now they're in the same house, okay, I'll suspend my disbelief for that. I thought it felt more realistic.
She can't even get to the RV by herself.
She really can't. It was funny,
She's
though.
like, I've been meaning to put steps here.
Yeah, like, whoops, I guess I should have already done that.
Well,
but-
and I envision her being like my size. And so, like, stepping into an RV without steps would be difficult anyway.
in general,
Our
yeah.
RV has steps, but they like the bottom one broke off, so like it doesn't go all the way down. So we had to get a step stool to get up onto the steps to
right,
get it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is not easy to navigate.
Yeah, without crutches, it's
Yeah.
not easy to
Yes.
navigate. What was your favorite scene, Mindy?
Well, mine, I'm looking back, I'm like, well, both of my favorite moment was about a parent moment, and now this one is too. I love when Jose gets all paternal and like his genuine care for Rose, and
yeah.
he knows she doesn't want to stay there, but he knows she needs to.
Sure.
And he calls her his pequeño gorrión, which is the little sparrow.
Yeah,
And, of course, she goes by Sparrow as her sort of vigilante name.
she has them painted on her RV.
Yeah, it's her thing, right? And so I thought there's got to be some symbolism there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So sparrows actually are like, there's all kinds of symbolism with them. And like, as far as their way of life and everything, it really translates into that. And so I found a lot of really, really neat tidbits about this. First of all, they are very small and delicate birds, but they have a very lively presence.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and that's rooted in symbolism in many, many cultures. And so that reminds me of Rose. Like, she's definitely like a little spunky and, I don't... It
A lively presence.
Does it describe her as like small statured at all?
It does.
I think
I
it does.
thought it
Very much.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I picture her like that too.
I do too. I picture her as petite, but like larger than life,
But
right?
that reminds me of King of Battle and Blood, because she's really offended that King Adrian calls her Sparrow, and then he's like, no, they're actually really strong
Yeah.
birds.
Yeah.
You find that out later at the end, which I really love. And
Yeah.
now I'm hearing his voice on the audio. And I think I need to take matters.
I feel like
You're
I need
having
to
a
read
moment
that
over there.
again. It's been a while since I've read that.
I did a re-listen at Christmas. I do every year.
So next, you look into Greek mythology, and again, sparrows are connected to the Greek goddess Aphrodite,
Oh,
which we
Aphrodite.
know Rose is already connected to, and they're
yeah.
recognized as symbols of passion, hope, loyalty, and true love.
Oh, very
So I'm
nice.
seeing this whole
her whole personality.
yes,
Yeah.
just in this couple of things we know about sparrows already. Next, they are known for their resilience and adaptability. Sparrows can thrive in many different landscapes, like from rural areas to urban areas. They can find food, make nests, and they always establish a community in even the most unlikely places. So there are reminders that we can find strength in adversity and not only survive, but thrive. And this definitely seems like a personality trait of Rose's.
Yeah.
I mean, they travel all around to different places, and then they've got this whole community going on.
It's a very nomadic lifestyle.
Yes.
For sure.
So that definitely tracks. Then they are also known for joy and simplicity. They're very cheerful and energetic, and they remind us to find joy in the simple things and the simple life of camping and traveling. Later on, we'll find out a little bit more when she starts to pull plants into stuff. It's a very simple life kind of thing. I just thought that really, really resonated with me as far as she goes as well. Then we come to the community and the social connection, and they're very social. They build their nest close to each other so that they can create a sense of community.
Yeah.
And that Rose is drawn to the circus, where there's this sense of value of relationships and belonging and support from the community. That's all a testament to
Yeah.
that, right? They are known for their freedom and independence. So even though they do love community,
Yeah.
they also have this spirit of independence. They have a built-in wanderlust with they like to explore vast territories far and wide. Again, traveling with the circus
Sure,
totally goes with that. And then many cultures believe this symbolizes the soul's liberation and encourages embracing your individuality and pursuing your dreams. So if that doesn't sum up Rose, I don't know what
It really does.
Right, yeah.
And then I found this other little tidbit I thought was interesting. Marvin Gaye has a song called Sparrow, and the theme of it is speaking out and standing up for justice.
Oh, that's
cool. So-
I don't know that song.
So clearly that's
cool.
something that people also relate to the sparrow, and is definitely something that Rose feels very strongly about.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's all very good, Mindy.
So I kudos. Kudos, Bryn
job.
Weaver.
Yeah, good job, Bryn Weaver.
You did your research.
You did it. Yeah.
I swear, we don't even write out our notes together, but you keep segueing into my next thought every time.
We were on the same wavelength this week, I
That's
guess.
perfect.
Well, because my chapter MVP is the Sparrow, not necessarily Rose, but the Sparrow, right?
That specific part of her.
Right.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that her MO is abusive assholes, and she can spot a victim and gives them hope through the tarot card reading.
Yeah.
And even though she's always had someone else do her wet work, she decides to get her own hands dirty. It doesn't go super well, but she doesn't seem to even regret that.
No, I don't think she does regret that.
Yeah.
I think she regrets the
Injury.
trouble. Yeah, the trouble
Right.
it is causing after the fact. But
Yeah.
Right.
she would do it again.
Yeah.
I feel confident about that.
Absolutely. She would just, make sure she hits him the first time, not letting him duck.
Yeah. If the situation was exactly the same, I know what to do now. Well, my chapter MVP is actually Fionn. I wrote in my notes, I want to be a Rose stan because I do really love her in the first two books, especially, but she is so unpredictable. Like you're alluding to,
Yeah.
she's so unpredictable and she doesn't really think through anything in this section. And then it kind of annoys me in this section. I'm like, just slow down for a second, right? Like you could have, we would have had no book at that point, but you could have prevented this injury to yourself if you would like slow down just a little bit. But I really love Fionn coming in as the knight in shining armor, like not really on purpose. And that immediate connection that we see between the two of them, especially from his perspective, falling for Rose pretty immediately, which I always like that trope, that insta love, insta attraction. And then scrubbing in on her surgery. And he came in a day early before he was supposed to be on shift to check on her. And he brought her bike so he could check on her again. I'm just like, you're so cute.
He's such
really
a
love it.
reluctant hero too.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, he's like a simp
Yeah.
for her. And is like, I need to know how she's doing.
But he'll be like, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
I just can't help myself. I'm just drawn
Which
to
is
her.
a Kane brother attribute.
Yes,
Exactly.
it is.
To a
Yes,
T.
it is. That's in the DNA.
Who was your chapter MVP, Mindy?
Well, mine, even though it was part of my least favorite moment, my chapter MVP is cocktail sticks.
That's my favorite secondary
Because
character.
who knew something so small could make such a huge impact?
You know what I
It
put?
did.
Who would have thought that cocktail skewers would be a great self-defense weapon?
We are like on the same wavelength this time.
You know what I love though? I love that the wife sees that Cranwell has these things fucking sticking out of her eye, and she just shuts the door and leaves him to fend for
She's like,
himself.
bye.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, it sucks to suck.
Yeah, I'm not going out there. Sorry.
Yeah, if I'm not helping the girl that's attacking you, I'm sure as hell not going to help you.
Right.
She's like, by the way, you just, because she screams before Rose gets to him, right? So he had just done
Yeah.
something to her
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So she's like, well, hope you can see out of one eye,
Karma.
fucker.
Yeah. Who did you pick for your secondary character?
My secondary character was Baz. I just think
yeah.
he's your typical manipulative teenager, but you can tell he really cares about Rose.
Yeah.
And he's also thoughtful about his mom.
Yeah.
So he was really cute.
Well, and that's
he wasn't in
really-
there enough this time. Hopefully we get more of him.
He is a fun little side character. Yeah. And that's who the cocktail skewers were for.
That is true. That is true.
So shout out to Baz, because without him, they wouldn't have been there. Well, my favorite secondary character is Judy Cranwell, the wife. And she doesn't know about the Sparrow, I guess, because she doesn't know the secret code, right? When she gets the Ace of Cups, she doesn't respond with the secret, code phrase. But
Do
when
we know what the phrase is?
to take flight.
Yeah.
Rose asks, like, what is with the Ace of Cups?
What
like,
is your
what's your
purpose or-
deepest desire? or
Because
something?
that's what the nurse says to her.
And it's to take
flight.
flight.
Okay.
Yeah. So when, like you're talking about, Deb, when a random stranger stabs her abusive husband in the eyeball, she's just like, oh no. I kind of picture the Willy Wonka movie with Gene Wilder where he's like, no,
Don't
stop. Yeah. Like not concerned at all. I really enjoyed that detail too, that she just like watches him suffer at least for a little while. Like who knows how long, right? Because we do find out in this section that he does get to the hospital at some point, but I really appreciated that detail that she just like lets him deal with it for at least a little while, which took me to my deep dive. So I was really interested in this whole concept of fighting back against your abuser, right? With like intimate partner violence, domestic violence. And so surprisingly for me, the true crime junkie, I don't actually have like a crime to describe to you, but just some information kind of in general about this phenomenon really of women fighting back against their abusers. So seeing that is Rose's connection to this trilogy's murderverse, helping women kill their abusers, it got me interested in real life women who attack or kill their abusers. So I found first on this deep dive kind of information about a little bit about the psychology of it. And it was this article about victim advocates in Louisiana that are working to change not just laws in Louisiana, but also how law enforcement officers see victims of intimate partner violence and how a change in perspective can change the whole outcome of the entire case. So the article talked about how victims are assumed to be passive, or that maybe their relationships are mutually aggressive or mutually violent, which muddies the water for law enforcement when a victim fights back and maybe law enforcement does not have any other history of abuse happening. It kind of makes it unclear to them.
On record.
Exactly.
Right.
It makes things unclear to them and changes really the way that they handle these calls.
It's like that Gabby Petito.
Exactly.
Petito.
Yes, it is very much so. So the article points out that about 40% of domestic violence victims fight back at some point in their relationships. But for some reason, law enforcement and society at large still see this self-defense as inappropriate instead of self-defense, right? And so adding to all of that, a lot of victims understandably self-medicate to deal with their trauma with alcohol or drugs, which leads to all other kinds of assumptions that law enforcement and society put on these women, mostly women. I'm going to keep referring to them as women because almost all of these victims are in fact women. So when you find out as a law enforcement officer that this victim that you're talking to is drunk or high or has a history of maybe DUIs or something like that, you see them as erratic, you see them as untrustworthy, and that also gives prosecutors or defense attorneys a lot of ammunition to paint them in a negative light during any trials that may happen. So this article about Louisiana focused on the case of a woman named Beatrice Taylor, who I'm not going to give you all the details, but she was convicted of killing her abusive boyfriend in 1997. She served 23 years in prison before she was pardoned by the Louisiana governor in 2020. Basically, she was in an abusive relationship. She called the police multiple times, and eventually her boyfriend ended up with a knife in his chest after he broke her foot in yet another attack. Wow. And she says, it made me think of the musical Chicago, that song, He Had It Coming. Yeah. Like, he ran into my knife. Like, it kind of gave that kind of, it gave that kind of vibe where she basically is like, I literally don't remember. Like, obviously, I guess I did this, but I have no memory of actually doing it. Probably because it was in the middle of her being attacked. Right. So, this article used Beatrice's case and how it was handled as an example of the lot of the points that they're making that I've already mentioned, right? The making assumptions about the victims, thinking it's mutually violent, or making assumptions based on somebody being on drugs or being drunk at the time, that kind of stuff. So one really cool organization that was highlighted in that article is the Tulane's Women's Prison Project, which is run in part by the director of the Tulane Law School Domestic Violence Clinic. So the Women's Prison Project provides legal representation to incarcerated domestic violence survivors who feel that they were wrongfully convicted. The Louisiana Supreme Court made clear in 2018 that attorneys representing domestic violence survivors need to consult with a psychology expert to pursue a battered wife syndrome line of defense in a murder trial. And so that year in 2018, when the Louisiana Supreme Court made that ruling, the court overturned the conviction of Katina Curley, who lived in New Orleans. She had spent more than 10 years in prison for killing her husband after suffering years of abuse from him. And the Women's Prison Project helps connect lawyers like Katina's with these psychological or psychology experts, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Your Joe Schmo random lawyer may not know any of those people, right? Like, especially if it's a part of law that they don't normally practice.
And if your lawyer has an unconscious bias about
100%.
This.
Yeah. And that's part of what they work with or work on too. So I also found an article about a Stanford Law School practicum class called Creating a National Census of Women Imprisoned for Murdering Their Abusers, which I really love how straightforward that title is. Like, this is what we're doing. Yeah, this is it. So law professors and students at Stanford Law School studied the frequency with which women are incarcerated for killing their abusers and how they fare in the parole process. So they did a systemic review of 140 parole hearing transcripts that they got from the California Board of Parole Hearings. They found that approximately 23% of women incarcerated for homicide in California are serving time for a crime directly linked to their experience of intimate partner violence. So that's almost 1/4 of all women in prison for homicide, which I thought was kind of insane. So while these survivors experience a parole grant rate nearly equivalent to that of the general prison population, on average, they're serving over 2 decades in prison before they're even eligible for parole, which is a really long time.
Good Lord.
So the researchers' transcript review revealed more than 90% of survivors that are incarcerated for intimate partner-related homicides had experienced other forms of trauma, such as child abuse or sexual violence, prior to their incarceration. And the report argues that policymakers need to consider all the nuances in their approach to post-conviction decision-making. So basically letting them on parole or not on parole. You've got to take all these factors into account, right? It's not black and white. There's a lot
It's not just someone who stabbed their spouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So their decision making, they're arguing, is it needs to better reflect the dynamics of intimate partner violence, which will allow the criminal legal system to more fairly treat victims and survivors of intimate partner violence. So just like as a society, we have grown a lot over the last couple of decades in our understanding of intimate partner violence in general. We need to keep extending that into having a better understanding of victims, right? And not just victims who are suffering or have suffered through intimate partner violence, but victims who fight back and kill their abusers. And we really need to start thinking more critically how we handle these cases, because they're just really complicated.
Yeah.
It's
So-
really not that simple. You know?
I will tell you, there is a very popular podcast that I stopped listening to because they covered one of these cases and victim blamed the woman over and over and over again. Like, how, well, you know, if he was doing all this stuff to you, why didn't you report it? You just because he abused you for years doesn't mean you can stab him to death. And I'm like, when you are going through something like that and you have no one to talk to and no one believes you, you have all that pent up aggression.
Right.
And honestly, quite frankly, if she hadn't killed him, he probably would have killed her.
Well, I was going to say it's 100% self-defense.
Right.
Like, regardless of if it's
Of
like
how often
heated
it
in the
happened.
moment
Right,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
If this is like extended, you know,
Right.
repeated bullying or again, abuse, emotional,
Yeah.
physical, whatever it is, that is, you have to defend yourself against that.
Right.
Well, and she had premeditated her murder. It wasn't in a heat of a moment, but he had convinced all of her family that she was lying, that he had never
was
done
crazy.
anything to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad that you covered this. I think it's
Yeah.
really important, and maybe we can put the link to that project in the show notes.
Yes, it's in the show notes.
Yeah,
already.
but it just, you know, it goes back to the whole like believe women thing.
And we'll put the some resources for people who are experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence in the show notes as well.
We see you and we believe you.
Yes.
Well, and I also just want to say, nobody, you know, in any of the articles that I was just talking about, and none of us here at Our Nerdiest Thing, no one is saying like, well, it's okay that they murdered somebody, right? Like, we're not advocating for murdering people. However, this is super complex.
Yeah.
And it's,
Right.
you can't just say, well, murder is bad.
It's almost like a mental break.
Right.
is what
It's
it is.
way, way, way more complex, complicated, layered, and nuanced than just like, well, don't do that.
Right.
That just is a not
It's one of those
sufficient
things where
response.
if you've never been in that situation, you don't understand why women don't come forward. You don't understand why they don't confide in their families. You don't understand why they don't file a police report every single time. Like, you have never been in that situation, and you don't understand how threatening that other person can be and how much they can scare and manipulate you into believing that no one's going to believe you.
100%.
And unfortunately, these women do go to the police, and then they're like, well, we don't have enough evidence.
Yep.
Oh, it's only
Sorry.
one time.
I
Sorry.
can't tell you how many podcasts or documentaries I've seen or listened to about different true crime cases where the authorities don't do anything and then the woman gets killed. Just
Right.
like you were talking about Gabby
Yeah.
Petito.
I think it's Petito.
Petito. I'm
I wanna say
say it.
Petito
I know,
for some
me too.
reason.
But yeah, it's that exact situation over and over and over and over again until somebody gets killed. So that's what the trigger warning was for at the beginning of our episode. So maybe we can move into happier.
Your favorite quote.
My quotes are both funny.
Yeah,
Okay,
mine
good.
is too, and I don't want to make light of what we just talked about.
Well, sure,
It's a
yeah.
hard segue back into funny, though.
Yes. It's not a very good transition, but it's
Right.
a transition nonetheless.
Yeah, what were yours, men?
We actually kind of talked about both of them, but the first one you talked about, Deb, when Rose says, "You look like a TV doctor. Dr. McSpicy or something. What are your credentials?"
Yeah, I enjoyed
that
that
was
too.
just super funny. I love, and again, that is like right at the beginning of their banter when you see this is going to be fun, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then I also loved when Fionn, he's talking about the showers at the campground. And he's like, that looks totally safe. And Rose is like, they only murder people and they're on the weekends.
Yeah. I liked that too.
Mine also comes from that same scene. Mindy and Whitney, you covered this earlier, but Rose says, you're not afraid of murder children because you're a fierce, independent woman.
Yeah.
And you brought up thinking about Children of the Corn, and that's exactly what it brought to my mind.
Yeah, me too.
It's how
Yeah.
fucking creepy those kids were. If you've never watched that movie, don't watch it at night. Make
Yeah.
sure someone's in the house with you. It is so creepy.
Yeah, I immediately thought Children of the Corn, and then Fionn says it, and I was like, yes, I'm smart. I did it.
Like she waves at them and everything, and they just stare
does.
at her.
Well, and they stop swinging like all at the exact same time.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, these are definitely like devil children.
Yeah, they are.
Run as fast as you can. I had some of the same quotes as you guys have already said, but one that no one has mentioned yet, which I'm kind of surprised at. Rose is thinking to herself at how like attractive Fionn is, and then says to herself, I probably look as appealing as a bag of dicks. And I just really thought that was funny because she's a poor thing. She's got her,
She's had a rough night.
It takes her
she's
10
been through
minutes
it.
to walk to the bathroom.
She's really been through it, but I thought that was really, really funny. So that brings us to questions. Mindy, what questions do you have?
I had a few. I want to know who or what is VR that is tattooed
That's
on
one of
Rose's
mine, too.
hand.
Yeah.
Why is Fionn in this podunk town and what is he running from? And who's Barbara?
Oh, yeah.
Had that question too, and the other question
Yeah.
about Fionn. Why isn't he in Boston?
Yeah.
with other brothers.
Like we know he doesn't live there with them,
Right.
but he comes off
From the first two books, we know
right,
that,
right. But I'm like, why this town and why? Like, what is he running from? Like, what?
Yeah.
What's his story? Which I've been asking in the other two books as well.
Well, we do know from at least Leather and Lark, we know that he got dumped.
Right.
Right, that's true.
But I mean, we don't really know.
And he thought he was going to like marry her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the only thing we really know about him is that he had a bad
Like,
breakup.
okay, then escape to a different city or
Right.
whatever. Like,
It
why
is
are we-
weird to go from Boston to like
He wants to be anonymous
Nebraska
somehow.
or wherever they
yeah.
are. Is it Nebraska?
I don't know.
I feel like that's
It feels like Nebraska.
The Great Plains of the United States. How's that?
I don't know, somewhere in the
I
Midwest.
do
I don't know.
think in
I want to say
Butcher and
Nebraska.
Blackbird, they say he's in Nebraska.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I'll have to look this up. Well, I only have like two questions. So one is about the book formatting. I'm curious because I know I have the Kindle version, but I know you guys have like the physical version. So is the physical book like this too, where there are tons of Scythe and Sparrow graphics breaking up the text? Like 10 in one chapter?
No, and I noticed that when I was reading this on Kindle
Yeah.
this
Okay.
time because that's how I prep, and I was like, "This is very distracting."
It is,
Yeah.
and because sometimes they do that just to show like a time jump, or
Right, but
like
there's
it's the
no
next
time
one.
jump.
It is
Yeah.
just randomly there, and it doesn't make any sense at all. So,
Well, it does
all right.
make sense because when it's a Sparrow, it's her inner monologue, and then when it's a Scythe, it's his inner monologue.
Well,
isn't
but
it?
having that many, the where they are placed,
Right,
does
right.
not make sense. Like,
Right.
there's not a rhyme or reason to just why is this here? Because
Right.
it's just in the middle of a
and you
conversation.
don't typically have that type of formatting on a Kindle
Right,
either.
it's
It
more-
normally just goes to the next page.
So the physical book is not like that.
I don't
I don't
think
think so.
All right. Well,
I could be wrong.
boo. Boo for that. I don't, it is distracting and it's just very strange. But my other question is actually related to the story. That one's just related to the formatting. But, okay, Rose makes a joke about this when Fionn's talking to her about the surgery on her leg and says that she's got antibiotic pearls. And Rose is like, oh, you're into pearling, huh? And I thought, I don't know what that means, but it sounds like something sexual.
Well, hold on, because I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay, great. I did not
Hold
look
on
this
to your
up.
butt.
Did you have any other questions?
No, that was it. Those were the only
because
two.
you all covered all of my questions, but then I want to talk a little bit about pearling and body modification, okay?
Ooh.
According to Wikipedia, pearling or genital beading is a form of body modification, the practice of permanently inserting small beads made of various materials under the skin of the genitals, of the labia or the shaft or the foreskin of the penis. As well as being an aesthetic practice, this is usually intended to enhance the sexual pleasure of their partner. So much like the genital piercings, it's kind of
Right.
the same thing, but these are subdermal. And if you go to Wikipedia, there is a picture of it, and it does look like a ribbed dick. I mean, it looks like it would be painful. And
I feel like
I'm
there's all
horrified by
kinds of
this.
hygiene issues here. Like,
Well, I mean, it's no different than getting any other type of implant. Just
Yeah.
as long as you have
Which-
someone
I mean,
who
it's
knows
like
what they're
under
doing.
your
which get
skin.
inflamed and
well, that's
screws
true.
fall
That's
out
true.
and things travel
So there
other
was-
places.
Screws
And-
fall out.
There was one article I was reading where they were like, don't move around a lot after you have that done, or you're going to end up with a ball down in your scrotum sac. And I was like,
Oh
yeah.
my
sounds
gosh.
miserable.
Well, so listen, all of us in this room have body modifications in some way, right? We either have some sort of piercing, even if it's
I'm
ear
like, do
piercing.
I?
You have your ears pierced, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I had to think about it.
Right. Mindy and I both have tattoos, but there are some extreme modifications that I really didn't know about. And this first one I think's only been done once, but there's this man who actually got breast implants behind his tattoo of a big-breasted woman. Okay?
To make it a 3D tattoo?
So luckily
right.
the universe told him that was fucking stupid and his body rejected the implants.
Like, was it little
Okay.
silicone little bags?
They were silicone, yeah.
Like-
Can you imagine getting busy with a guy and finding fake tits on his leg?
Yeah,
it was on his
that's
leg.
weird.
No,
That is so
that's
weird.
odd.
So
That's
it's a
probably why his
big,
body rejected them.
busty
Yeah.
woman with silicone tits on his leg.
I would love to have a little novella about that thought process and decision.
You know, he was a runner. He's like running.
I think he was like I don't want to say anything offensive. I think he was not educated.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
how's that?
He just thought it sounded cool.
Right. Yeah, to just put fake tits on your leg.
I want boobs.
Also, there's people starving. Donate that money to charity.
For real.
God, dude.
Yeah. If you just have money to burn, let's
Right.
find a,
Yeah.
Right.
a more worthwhile.
So next we have corset piercings, which are exactly what they sound like. You can get 2 parallel rows of rings pierced down your back so that you can thread lace through them.
Ooh.
It's actually really pretty, but I read that it's very uncomfortable.
I was just
and
thinking
it's
that.
very hard to make it permanent.
I mean, of
because
course it's uncomfortable.
there's
Yeah.
not, you can't like heal whole rows of piercings
No.
like that. And so a
Right.
lot of people do it just for like a fetish reason or something like that. But I saw
Yeah.
pictures of it and it's actually really pretty.
Yeah.
Really pretty. So skull implants are probably one that you've seen before in real
Actually,
life.
I've heard of these. Yes.
Yeah, so this is where plugs are added under the skin so that you can screw horns, spikes, or whatever right into your
Yeah.
dome. So that's one that's pretty popular in terms of this.
People do it like almost like beads over their eyebrows.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so that
I've seen
is
that.
purling is also called beading, but purling is usually just for the genitals.
Right. I was
Beading
just about
is
to
for the
ask
rest
that.
of your
Yeah.
body.
Okay.
Yeah. So one you definitely haven't heard of is a man named Stelios Arcadius, a performance artist, which that's the most
That is not
performance
his real
artist.
name.
I know, right? He had an ear implanted into his arm as part of performance art. He also plans to have a microphone planted there so that it can actually, like, quote unquote, hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to criticize performance art. Far be it from me.
I don't want
But
to criticize your art, bro. But
yeah, that's
same thing. You're
little
about
weird.
to get down and dirty with the guy, and you're like, "Why is there an ear on your forearm?"
It has been proven that some of the greatest artists and the greatest minds of our times
insane.
We're
completely,
literally,
yeah,
yes.
completely insane.
We just got done covering.
I was
Edgar
going to
Allan
say,
Poe.
yeah. We've learned this recently.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to eyes, and I'm sorry.
Oh
Did you all know that you can get implants in your eye?
no!
And I'm not talking like
Why?
a glass eye after an injury. You can actually have something like a charm attached to your eye.
Why?
I don't know.
That's
so-
just like inviting all kinds of infection.
Okay, to your point,
Yeah.
this procedure's only ever been done in the Netherlands. Nowhere else in the world. Okay, probably because it's really fucking dangerous.
I don't want to judge a different culture, but
So going back to the beading, a new trend is instead of beads under your skin is getting magnets under your skin.
So you can like attach stuff to yourself.
I guess.
or maybe like you and your partner could
Can-
get the opposite.
So, okay, when
And,
my husband and
you know.
I both started dating, he had a, this makes us sound so trashy.
He had a magnet in his dick.
He did. He just drew me right in. No, he had an eyebrow piercing with a hoop, and I had an eyebrow piercing with a bar, and we would make out, and they would get stuck together.
Oh no!
And you don't know they're stuck together until you try
Until
to
you,
pull away.
yeah, and then it hurts. Oh, it's like getting your braces stuck together.
It's like a little cooler than that,
Well,
actually.
a little cooler, yeah.
Okay, so the final one I'm going to discuss makes me queasy, only because the method of the transformation seems very painful. I'm going to give a quick trigger warning for cutting and blood. So if this isn't for you, you just need to skip ahead like 30 seconds.
Well, see ya.
Plug your ears, Whitney. So one can get their tongue forked. Think like the old school pictures of Satan or like a serpent, right? But it requires your tongue to be cut with a scalpel down the middle, threaded apart, and then cauterized to stop the bleeding.
No, thank you.
And I'm one who really loves self-expression, but this one just simply isn't for me.
Do you all remember? I think it was like maybe the 3rd or 4th season of The Real World, and there was this punk rock guy on there, and somebody he was doing a show, and somebody bit his tongue. Like
I
the
do
tip
not
of it off.
remember that.
Ooh,
Yeah,
no.
I don't know why I remember that. I think it was the same one with the wrestler guy that ended up actually being a wrestler.
That was New York season 10 because I watched that.
Was it that far
That was
in there?
Mike the Miz.
I'm pretty sure it was that. I'm pretty sure it was that same.
He was like
one.
my favorite.
I could be wrong. Anyways,
I don't remember the tongue thing though, but I believe that happened.
Yeah,
for
it was.
Sure.
It was the one. No, it was the one that was in England.
Yeah, I didn't.
So then
watch
it wasn't that one. It was definitely in England because guy was a British guy and he was in like part of the British punk scene. Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Well, that's all I've got. I think I've given us enough to think about for the
Yeah.
So pearling is beads under your skin and your dick or labia, to answer your question.
I would like to never think about any of that again.
I'm really glad you didn't look it up because the pictures are something
I
else.
just knew that it was going to be something
You were like
really.
that, yeah.
I was like, this isn't going to be because I don't know. I mean, 'cause I don't know anything about anything really. But the only kind of sexual term that I know of pearling is just in romance
a
books.
hand necklace.
Well, no,
Or no, not a hand necklace.
When they
Pearl
talk
necklace.
about,
Pearl necklace.
they talk about like pre-ejaculate, and they'll say sometimes authors describe it as like
Pearl
a
in the
pearl,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was like, I feel like that's not what this is referring to, because that I could handle.
The pearl necklace.
Yeah, I knew that one.
yes.
Yeah.
I've heard of that before. I know like 2 things. How about that?
You're doing great.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm pushing 40 and learning something new every day.
We love you just the way you are.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
Oh, thanks.
I did not know what pearling was, for the record.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, that's different. Bryn Weaver teaches us new things every single book, doesn't
She
she?
sure does.
Thanks, Bryn. Well, that brings us to what we're looking forward to as we keep reading the rest of this book, because this is just the beginning, Bryn.
Yes, it is.
Just setting it all up.
I really just want to see Rose continue with her Sparrow victims. I want to see where that's
Yeah.
going to go.
Yeah, because she's trying something new.
She's like, you know what? Why have someone else do this when I can just do it?
Yeah, I appreciate
What
that
could
a
go
lot.
wrong?
Yeah. What about you, Mindy?
I'm just looking for the crossovers with the other 2 books, especially when Sloane and Rowan come to the house and meet Rose for the first time. I'm looking forward to that from the other perspective.
That's one of the things I wrote down too, seeing how this book's timeline fits in with the timeline of the first 2 books and the overlap and new information, new insights that we'll learn. And I also just want to see their relationship progress, right? So we know from the first 2 books, especially the end of Leather and Lark, we already know that they like are super into each other, but it's also very complicated.
And
it
that
seems.
Rose is in love with him.
Yes, like there's definitely something real complicated going on.
Yeah.
And we're just now seeing the very beginning of this like attraction relationship.
Yeah.
So I want to see how this progresses and make more sense of the stuff we already know about them. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about with this book, this section?
I think we covered quite a bit.
I know,
We need to
yeah.
talk about pearling again?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm good. So next week, we will be discussing Scythe and Sparrow, chapters left unsaid through push to shove. And friends, there are no chapter numbers, just FYI. So that's why we're using the chapter titles instead. So just be aware of that. And also our Tuesday episodes are back. So go listen to what we're reading, listening to, watching, what our nerdiest things are, and author interviews.
Yay.
That's it. See you next time.
Bye. Like what you heard in this episode? Follow Our Nerdiest Thing on Instagram at instagram.com/Our Nerdiest Thing or Facebook at facebook.com/Our Nerdiest Thing. We love hearing from fellow nerds. Email us at ournerdiestthing@gmail.com.